Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside.
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. Thank you so much for hanging out. And of course, look, this is a live internet broadcast. We may never be on time. No promises. We do our best. We're here. I got into the studio today. Joe was ready for the most part. And here we are 11 minutes after the hour. So how about
for free?
For free. But how about we do this? Start time between 5 and 5:15. Every Tuesday.
I like that.
Which is 8 and 8:15. Just in case. Know that there's a really good chance, especially if Joe is promoting the broadcast, that we will be live. So you may have to wait. When we get email, say like through the Bald Truth, which was just forwarded, one was just forwarded to me, and you guys are angry that we are not on the air. We are on the air. We are doing our best. I want to apologize. I know that your time is important as well. I'm not saying that it's not. Just the nature of the business. This is not a podcast. This is a live internet broadcast. Contrary to popular belief in what some people may say, not that there's anything wrong with a podcast, I would much rather just do a podcast. As far as, well, I wouldn't rather do it, but as far as my time, as far as my, just being freed up, being able to do it essentially from anywhere, not having to even put this camera on, just bring a microphone and a small mixer, plug it into my fucking laptop, and I could do it anywhere. And if I wanted to add a camera, I can. Do not have to be in this studio. The great thing about the internet is things can be either very organic, quasi-organic, or it can be extremely highly produced. I prefer something kind of like in the middle, where the broadcast that we do, Joe, is it has the potential to be highly produced, and we have the equipment to highly produce it, but we don't overproduce this thing. There's not a lot of, we're not swiping shit in at the beginning and having a long fucking video opening, and the shit that I see people doing on their podcast, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I prefer it to be clean, dirty, and simple, like my women. Phone number is 888-659-3727. And guys, if you're just tuning in, excuse me, this is the Hair Loss Show. Dude, I'm not trying to slick back look. I would look, if I slick my hair back, I would be like James Woods in Once Upon a Time in America. It's not a good look for me, dude. Okay? This part of my hairline is more recessed, believe it or not, than this part of my hairline. So it's uneven. I think it makes me look at least several years older. And yeah, do I have enough hair to pull it off? I do. But I have enough hair to pull it off where it makes me feel like I look like I have fucking, a significant recessed hairline, more significant than it is right now. I don't want to do it. But thanks for asking. Guys, we are the hair loss guys. I am the founder of the American Hair Loss Association. I am the author of the I'm the founder of the American Hair Loss Association. I'm the author of The Bald Truth. Again, The Bald Truth for those who are listening. That was published more than 20 years ago. And I'm saying that for a reason. But yeah, I'm also the author of The Truth About Women's Hair Loss, and I happen to be a contributing editor to Consumer Digest magazine, also to WebMD. What we do here is for real. We have actual credentials, and both Joe and I have been doing this for a long time. Joe is the original hair transplant mentor. He has been in the trenches, in the field, in this industry, and having to deal and navigate this industry himself as a young man, where he made all the fucking mistakes that you guys are making now. And he has lived the fucking tale, has the fucking t-shirt, and has been there to tell you where all the bodies are buried.
I've got the scars, literally.
He literally has the scars.
And figuratively.
Right.
Mental and physical.
Right, and that's the reality of what we do here. Now, I hate the concept of negative social proof. So I don't want to go out there and say there are other people who are doing stuff that is not necessarily as productive and not necessarily as, has as much expertise behind it. But the reality is whatever you see online, especially what you see on YouTube or on hair loss message forums, oh my God, hair loss message forums are the most toxic fucking places in the fucking world. But there's a lot of toxicity, on social media and even on YouTube, a lot on YouTube, when it comes to this industry. Just enjoy that stuff and then come to us and ask about it. And you can provide these people with as many likes and subscribers and views so that they can make their money. I am cool with that, whatever they want to do. But before you make a decision that could affect the rest of your lives, come to us and we will provide you with the truth. Period. If you are trying to figure out hair loss hacks, did my mic just come in full? Did something change, or is that my headset? I think it's my headset. Trying to find out, hair loss hacks, there are none. The only hair loss hacks are 2 FDA-approved products that work, dutasteride, which can work, a good hair transplant, hard to find, sadly. There's only a handful of doctors in the entire world who are doing state-of-the-art hair restoration surgery. You can hack hair loss with a really great hairpiece. But there's no unusual hacks that you guys don't know about, or anything that celebrities are doing or that I'm doing or that Joe's doing that you're not going to know about. And if it's out there, I promise you it's been published. And if it hasn't been published, if it's something that's non-surgical or non-medical, we would be glad to guide you in the right direction when it comes to that, free of charge. You're not going to see an ad for, I don't know, hairpiece.com or whatever. If we talk about where to get inexpensive throwaway hair pieces online, it's just not going to happen.
No.
You will not see me. Well, unless I know it's going to help me, because I'll wear that shit all fucking day. But you probably are not going to see me wearing a laser helmet on the internet, on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook. It's not going to fucking happen. I'm not going to write a review about anything. Now, Joe has done some stuff like that, but he's done it in what I consider to be a very realistic and legitimate way. And that's hard to
if
find.
Not original, but
yeah, very, very original.
But here's the thing behind that. It's like I've done one product review, and it's because I actually I don't use it, but anytime I need to use a concealer, I do use that product, and that's Hairton, because I do feel like it's the better one out there for as far as like the fibers go. But that's the thing. It's like I told myself that if I do wind up doing reviews, it will be a genuine review, but it'll also be something that I think is like, if it's good, then obviously I'll be using it myself, or there will be situations where I'll use it myself. So, I think it's important that just for myself, it's like I need to be able to sleep well at night. So I'm not going to be, I've been approached by laser type of companies and some other companies that want me to pimp their wares. And I really didn't feel good doing that because it's like, it's horseshit. And yeah, I could have made probably some decent, coin on the side, but I just don't want to go down that route. I want to keep everything above board. I want to keep everything legit and honest, and just, really basically trying to help people find the answers instead of, silly products that don't do anything.
Look, here's the reality, and I forget about the altruism. That's all well and good. Beautiful, Joe. That's beautiful, and I appreciate that. But the reality is, in my world, while there's obviously we provide this information for free and we tell you the truth, I am always looking at the long game. And there was a time over a decade ago, I was offered $45,000 a month. $45,000 a month just to say, yay, this is recommended by the American Hair Loss Association. None of you motherfuckers would have known the difference. People are still buying this product to this day. And I chose not to take that money. Why? Because I knew, I still got so many haters out there. It's insane. Because when you're out there telling the truth, you make a lot of enemies. That's just the way that it is.
Yeah.
But I don't want to harm the guys that actually believe in what we do. And frankly, in the long run, that money would have meant shit to me. It's about the long game. It's about it's about longevity. The fact that I've been able to do this for 22 years, and I'm going to be completely honest with you. Never had to take out a mortgage. Never had to take out a loan. Never had to take out a business loan. Never had to owe anybody shit. Never had to overextend myself. It's pretty good. And there's a reason for that. Don't make stupid mistakes. Don't get in bed with fucking, you lie with dogs, you wake up with fleas. And that's the reality. I tell all these fucking doctors that. They don't get it. And then 5 years later, they're being extorted online. They're being trashed online. They're being bullied through chat services. That's how you got to run your operation, period. And just because these guys haven't figured out how to make a living except for selling themselves short, I think, a lot of these guys have a lot of potential. They're good in front of the camera. They're young. They're, they are relatable as millennials. Holy shit. If I was their age with the internet today, it's no fucking brainer. The amount of money they can make if they were just completely out there, willing to put their neck on the line and not think about the short game, they'd be millionaires.
Yeah, but if you tell them that, then it's like, well, I need to make money for going out this weekend.
Well, and guys, our phone number, 888-659-3727. We'll take your calls in a second. I will tell you this. All of you millennials out there who are worried about getting a fucking BMW at the age of 25 to show off to your fucking friends or to try to get laid, you're a fucking idiot. When I was your age, when I was 25 years old, and my story is pretty much out there, I was an entrepreneur from the age of 18. I had the ability to drive just about any car that I wanted to drive by the age of 25. I had a Mazda 626 that I drove into the fucking ground. Now, I'm a little obsessive compulsive, so I keep my cars fucking spotless. So that thing was in great shape. It looked beautiful. But it was an old fucking Mazda. I had it for a decade. The first expensive car that I ever got myself, I waited till I was 36 years old. In my mind, if you can't afford to buy the entire car with cash, whether you decide to finance it or lease it or what, but if you can't afford that loan, you don't take it. And that's what these guys are doing. They're worried about their fashion. They're worried about this. They're worried about that. Dude, I lived in fucking Queens. Sorry, nothing wrong with Queens. I'm just saying, not in a great area of Queens. Guys are just, anyway, I saved my money. I invested my money. I worked my fucking ass off so that I wouldn't have to worry about it. And if you guys take anything away from this besides what to do about your hair loss, don't be fucking stupid. You don't need to impress anybody in life. Because in the end, I guarantee you, a lot of my buddies who were making $100,000 a year back in 1987 or 1988, which is a lot of money, are now 50-something years old with, you know, they've had to remortgage their fucking homes. They're worried about their kids fucking sending their kids to college. They are working just to stay above water, and they are fucking struggling. But back then, they were driving a nice BMW 3 Series or a 5 Series. Mm-hmm. They were living on the Upper East Side in a beautiful fucking apartment. They don't have two fucking nickels to rub together. So just be smart, guys. Phone number is 888-659-3727. Let's take your calls. Hey, guys. Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, my name's Pat, calling from D.C. How are you?
Pat from D.C. Welcome, man. Hello, Pat. Do you remember the old station? Still may be on the air, but it's not an FM talk station anymore. WJFK 106.7.
No, I don't. I've lived here my whole life, actually. And,
how old are you?
I'll be 50 next year.
You don't know? You never listened to 106.7? WJFK?
106.7 at one point when it was more like a pop station, but no, I don't remember it being.
That's when they changed. They changed. Yeah, that's when FM talk, CBS lost that format. Howard Stern went to Sirius satellite radio, and they just lost everybody. Back in the day when I was on that station, the big talk guys were now I can't remember their names. They were actually pricks. But
on 106 were on another station.
Say it again.
They were actually on 106.7, or
they were on 106.7.
Oh.
I was going to say Kevin and Bean, but no, that they're here in L.A. Don and Mike. Do you remember Don and Mike?
Oh yeah. Weren't they? We're the big. We're fat. We're white. We're Catholic, and we're sick about it. Were they?
They were what? Say that again.
I used to have a tagline like something like we're white, we're Catholic, we're sick about it. Was like their tagline.
I think that might be it. But man, these guys were, holy cow! They were relentless initially about the bald show, and then when we pulled numbers, it was like they couldn't say anything. But these guys were like, they were joking about the bald show. They were fucking, it was a big laugh, during the morning broadcast. And I used to get tapes of that. And I used to be like, dude, these guys are giving me free advertising. It was incredible. But anyway, you said D.C. I used to live in Bethesda, Maryland. So.
Okay, well, I'm in Arlington, actually, but D.C.
So welcome, man. What can we do for you?
I could ask you a bazillion questions, but just to give you a little bit of backstory, I would guess I would probably about a 4 on that Norwood scale.
Can I ask you one question before you go on? Are you on a speakerphone?
No, I'm on headphones, though. Am I not clear?
It's not that clear.
Is this better?
Much better.
Okay, good. I would guess I'm about a Norwood 4 on the scale, maybe somewhere between a 4 and a 5.
Okay.
And I've been taking Propecia for over 10 years, and at best it has maybe slowed it down a little bit, so I don't think I'm a great responder to Propecia. And I know you don't necessarily follow your dad's pattern, but if I do follow my dad's pattern, I will likely be past a 7 by the time I'm like 70.
Right.
And I'm just wondering, can you do a transplant and eventually progress to like a 7, and could it still look okay 20 years down the line?
Well, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm sorry. Finish your question.
I was just going to say that, because I think right now I have enough hair that it would probably look okay if I went to the right doctor. But I'm thinking, 15 years down the line, if the Propecia is only marginally helping, what kind of place am I going to be in with a transplant then?
Well, first of all, that's an extremely lucid and I think relevant question in today's, the way guys are just jumping into surgery today. And it's a reasonable question. Most people wouldn't have the wherewithal to ask that question. So with that said, I'm going to let Joe answer it completely because, he's been in the trenches and he is a Norwood 7 himself at this point or close to a 7. But I will say that there are natural patterns, guys, in nature. If the hairline is placed appropriately, that you can go to a full-blown 7, as long as it's not severely depleted donor in the back, and look really completely normal. That is an actual pattern that just doesn't happen to exist on the Norwood scale. And it's a pattern that my father had. He died at the age of 90 with a pretty decent hairline and nothing in the back. And a very low fringe. So, Joe, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I was thinking while you're talking about that in one of my class videos where I'm talking about different kinds of hair loss that are not on the Norwood pattern or the Norwood scale, I actually use a picture of one of my friends that has a pattern just like that, where he's got a really large bald crown, but he's still got good coverage, not full coverage, but good coverage on the top and a really decent hairline. Like you wouldn't know that he was bald in the back from looking at him in the front or from either quarter angle, right? So, your question is, like Spencer said, I think it's more relevant today than ever, simply because there are more kids. I say kids, young people getting not just hair transplants, but getting aggressive hair transplants, the kind that we were preaching against for so many years due to the law of supply and demand. Your donor area doesn't have the supply that your area of eventual loss will demand to maintain the appearance of a full head of hair. That's why my own case, if you look at my hairline, it's not high, but it's appropriate for someone my age. Like I'm not quite a Norwood, like I'm between a Norwood 2 and a Norwood 3. That's worst case scenario. I'm not bald, right? So I think that with your specific condition where you're roughly a Norwood 4, is that where you are now, or is that where you were when you started the medication?
No, it's probably a little bit, maybe more like a 3 when I started. And so, I mean, it's progressed certainly, but yeah, I'm probably. I would
okay, so as a Norwood
right
4, you got a patch of thinning or baldness in the back. Your hairline's gone, and you got a strong bridge across the top. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much. Although there's a whole nother issue with I have I can't even say the word craniosynostosis. I have a misshapen. It's not horrible, but it's a little bit of a misshapen head that I don't even know if the technology was there to correct it when I was a baby.
Right.
So the hair really helps, kind of camouflage that, but also, I probably have about 3 inches of a band on the left side and about maybe 1.5 on the right side because my head is misshapen.
Right.
All right. Now, when you say misshapen, how misshapen is it? Is it like misshapen, like from forceps, or is it like?
No, I think your skull is not supposed to fuse until you're a little bit older, and one side of my skull fused a little bit early. So when with hair, it's fairly camouflageable, and still at this point, it mostly is. At least I hope. I'd like to think that it is. But
now there's one side. I guess my question is, as far as the appearance, does one side look like it has a defect, like a depression?
Not a depression. It's one side's a little bit flatter than the one side's a little bit flat, and the other side's a little more rounded. But I wouldn't say it's a depression.
Just so you know, I mean, and this is an option now that could be made available. It's something that you can do in the future if you needed to. The use of certain fillers, and I'm not a fan of fillers in your face, so I'm sorry for all you plastic surgeons out there, but to me, this is what these types of fillers were made for these types of symmetry defects, whether it's in the face or the scalp or other parts of the body. And they're longer lasting fillers. And it's very possible that if you go to the right, and I would consider going to a board certified plastic surgeon or a procedural dermatologist who really knows their shit, and they could slowly kind of mold that filler to, give you symmetry. It is possible today, especially if the defect isn't that great, to use fillers to create symmetry.
Oh, that's interesting. I'll have to look into that.
And it's not going to necessarily feel like your head is soft. It really depends on, there's something called Sculptra. There's other long-lasting, harder type of fillers that can be used that will eventually dissipate. But if you ever need it, you don't have to go around feeling self-conscious if the hair isn't there.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, thank you. I'll see what I can find out about that.
Sure.
So back to the original question. You said that you're asking about following in your father's pattern of loss somehow. Can you repeat that point you were talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I know it can come from your mother's side as well, but if I do happen to follow my dad's pattern, by the time he passed at 80, he had about an inch of hair just above his neck, and that was about it. So I'm like, if I at some point, years down the line, get down that far and have this hair in the front and this,
What was your dad like when he was your age?
I don't think it was quite as bad as mine, but he also wasn't on Propecia. And it's hard to know because he was always the one taking the photos. He's not in that many, and you certainly don't have any in the back of his head. So I'm really not.
He wasn't
sure.
as bad as where you are now, or you weren't as bad as where he was.
I'm not
the same
as bad.
age.
I don't think I'm quite as bad as where he was at my age, but
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well. Okay. So you got that side of your family. What about your mom's side of the family? Like your grandfather on your mom's side or uncles?
On my mom's side, my grandfather on my mom's side died with a full head of hair. So.
Okay.
Well, that's actually,
right.
That's pretty favorable for you. So believe it or not, I mean, as you know, it's coming from your genes are coming from both sides of the family. You could have a stronger predisposition from your dad's side, which is not necessarily usual. It's more of a mix, but you just don't know. You really don't have any idea. But based on the fact that there is, I'm sorry, go ahead, Joe.
I was just going to say, like I've talked about this before, where you're talking about how you think that you're similar to your father's side. The reason I was asking about your mother's side is because if you physically and this is purely my own observation, no doctors have talked about this, there's no studies that I'm aware of, but this is purely from my own observation from dealing with patients for so many years face to face. There's a likelihood where if you physically resemble one side of the family over the other, which happens a lot, like in my family, I'm the spitting image of my father, whereas my younger brother is a spitting image of the men on my mother's side of the family. And he's following her side of the family's hair loss pattern while I'm following my father's side of the hair loss pattern. And I've seen this consistently throughout my career. There are always exceptions to everything, and this certainly applies, but there is a good chance that if you're following the hair loss pattern of, or if you physically resemble one side of the family over the other, and your hair loss pattern at any point resembles what you've seen in your predecessors on that side of the family, then there's a strong likelihood that you will follow that pattern. So in your case, I think that it's a very logical observation that you are on the medication. I think you said you're on the medication. Your father wasn't, so maybe that's why you're not quite as far along as he was. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because I've been on it for 10 years now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that makes sense. So I think that's very logical. So to answer your original question, does it make sense to have a hair transplant now, knowing that there is at least potential for moving into the realm of being a Norwood 7? I think that I think you said you're close to 50 or in that range. I think that as long as you understand the long-term potential, as long as you understand that you are absolutely going to be in a position where more surgery is needed to maintain a certain appearance, I think it's okay. I wouldn't look at I wouldn't look at surgery as being perfect. Just understand going in what the shortcomings are, and ask yourself if you would be happy with just having coverage on top and maybe not addressing the crown at all, or if you do ever address the crown, just something that's light with, not bald, but certainly quite thin as a final result. I mean, that's ultimately what you got to ask yourself after you decide that you are willing to go through with multiple procedures. And in cases like yours, I don't know how you feel about it, but you might want to consider strip surgery first, at least a couple of times, because I would assume that if you're looking to go down the hair transplant route, you're not looking to shave your head. You're older, you're not a kid, so that would make sense. I could be wrong, but yeah, I mean, it doesn't automatically spell disaster if you feel like you're headed towards a Norwood 7, as long as you understand that possibility and everything that goes along with that.
Okay. And if I can ask a second question, if you get a good FUE procedure and, you get the hair implanted and say 10 years down the line, I decide, I just want to buzz it off with a 1, so you don't have the strip scar, is that still going to be an option, or is it if you buzz it to a really short level?
That is always the question mark. You just don't know.
I would say that is, I'm sorry to cut you off, Joe, but I would say that honestly, that question always kills me, because it is, you are the anomaly if you can shave down really close after having a significant amount of grafts moved via FUE, even if it's a small punch. Most people will see scarring.
I think shave your head now. Just see how you feel with shaving your head now, and that might just take care of everything.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the worst that can happen? You'll have a shaved head and your hair grows back. Question answered.
Well, I'm sporting a little bit of a comb over. I hope it's not a horrible comb over, but it's a little bit of one. So it would take like a year for it to grow back to where it is now. But yeah, I mean, I definitely, because I saw.
Well, maybe shaving's a good thing. Maybe it's time to get rid of that comb over, right?
How dare you?
Really?
I know.
I mean, there used to be 2 guys on your list here. Oddly, Dr. Vogel seems to have dropped off, but
Dr. Vogel was never a part of the IHS.
He was?
Nope.
I thought that's how I found him initially.
You did not. And by the way, and I appreciate, and please don't take this as a scolding at all, but that whole idea of a list is, when I hear that, it kind of like infuriates me, because what we try to develop, and again, this is not, a lot of people say that, so this is not just about you saying it. But, what we developed, what I founded almost 20 years ago, was an organization of like-minded physicians who could really get the job done, in most cases, for consumers who are looking for a safe place. And then all these other things came out, and they started these recommended lists and all this shit. And then that name just stuck with the IHS as well. So, no, I mean, I'm not saying anything against James Vogel, but he never applied to the organization, and he was never part of what we do.
Okay, because I thought that's where, because I found him, and I've seen both him and Dr. Lindsay and McLean, but have not pulled the trigger yet. And but I was the one guy that was Dr. Vogel that wanted to put a hairline lower, and I was like, no, take it higher. I want to save the hair if we do it.
Well, that's not a good sign. All I can tell you, that's a red flag right there. But again, I have nothing against Dr. Vogel. He's never applied to the organization, but he does advertise on a lot of different websites. So you may have seen him advertising someplace.
Yeah.
So, all I can say is, do not, if you recognize that you shouldn't have a lower hairline, then you're already in good shape. So that already shows that you have the basic emotional wherewithal possibly because you're older as well and you've been dealing with this for a long time. But I also sense that you are a person who wants to avoid having traditional harvesting or strip surgery. I get that. Makes total sense. When you really think about it, you are having your scalp cut open and a piece of tissue removed and being sutured closed, and you will definitely, there's no way around it, have a linear scar on the back of your head. And you will never know until the end result how wide that scar is going to be. In most cases, you may have a millimeter and a half, scar. But anything can fucking happen. You also
I'd
have
say
to,
realistically, 2 mil on average.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's fair. Maybe in the center, a little, depending on who does it, the center is probably going to be a little tighter than the sides. That usually is the case, but whatever. With that said, if you decide to move the same amount of hair via FUE, you have scar tissue all over your scalp. That's just the reality. And you are limited by the amount of grafts, by the technique. You're limited by the technique as far as the number of grafts that can be moved. So you have to always put that into perspective when you make these decisions. Either way, I certainly understand why you wouldn't want to have your scalp cut open. Makes total sense to me. Healing time with FUE is much more rapid. If it's done correctly by the right staff and the right surgeon, I say yields are very close now in general. Still slightly not as good as a strip that's being dissected under three-dimensional magnification or a microscope. But, there's some really great FUE docs out there. But what most will not tell you is, you can get the numbers moved for sure, but they have to go outside of what is normally thought to be the safe zone, the zone that will last the longest growing on your scalp of DHT-resistant hair. So you just have to be prepared for that. You may get an incredible FUE that will last you for 15 years. And then if that hair would have miniaturized, that was moved, that was slightly higher than the sweet spot or slightly lower than the sweet spot or slightly more forward in the temporal region, you're going to lose that hair. So you just have to be prepared for that.
And have you know, for other folks that have had limited response to Propecia, have you seen or heard much about if you up the dose, does that help much? Or
well, yeah, we talk about that all the time, and we're about to take another phone call, but I will answer that. It really is. We believe on the show, we're both not physicians, that the drug is dose dependent, and anecdotally, there have been countless guys who have contacted me personally, the American Hair Loss Association, the IHS, the Bald Truth, through our site and on this program, to say that they upped their dosage and they responded better. They had a better response, and they didn't even, didn't increase their side effects, or they didn't see any side effects. So that's something you need to talk to your doctor about. If you've been on it for a long period of time, it's possible that your genetics are just stronger than the drug that you're on right now. What are you on, 1 milligram a day?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's very possible. There are doctors out there who will agree. And what I would do is I would talk to your doctor and, see how you feel with upping the dosage.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, guys. This was very helpful. I appreciate it.
Well, I wish you the best of luck. Obviously, surgery is the last resort. There's no rush. But I think that a person in your position, knowing what you know and being relatively conservative as far as your hairline, you can probably get away with it if it's a good transplant performed by a surgeon who knows what they're doing and, all the stars are aligned, and you can get away with it and not worry about your progression as far as it not looking normal when you're 80. And frankly, who the fuck cares if you look normal when you're 80?
Well, it's easy to say now, but when we're 80, we may care.
Yeah, well, you may not even be able to see. Who the fuck knows?
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you,
man.
guys. Appreciate it.
I wish you the best of luck.
Care.
Take care.
Thanks for calling.
888-659-3727. I remember, and guys, we'll take your call right in 1 second. want to tell this little anecdote. I remember coming back to New York, visiting my father. It was probably about 6 or 7 years before he died. And he opens his door, and his hair is jet black. Jet fucking black. He decided he wanted to make himself look younger, so he got some Just for Men, put the shit in his head, left it on too long. He could hardly see. And when he saw himself in the mirror, he thought it was like 1947 all over again, that he had that pompadour. Meanwhile, because his hair was so thin on the sides and everything, it looked like he had some sort of bizarre patchy alopecia.
God bless him.
So I guess that's just the story of, like, when you get really old, you might not even see that the hairline isn't quite as good as you want it to be. And don't dye your hair if you're 80. Just saying.
Yeah, alone.
Yeah. 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. Guys in the UK, elsewhere, you can call us too. I don't know the number, but it's there somewhere. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, how's it going? It's David Dennison from Washington, D.C.
Hey, David Dennison, another Washington, D.C. guy. What's happening?
Hey, I want to bring some positivity to the show.
Yeah.
Okay, so and give you I would say a semi-success story.
I want to hear it, man.
We like those.
So, so last few years, I've been listening to the show, and I called in a handful of times, even got my hair analyzed on the show by Joe and you guys, and I just wanted to say that because of you guys, I started to take Propecia the last 5 months.
Okay.
Okay.
And let me tell you, I got an unbelievable response from Propecia.
Really?
I mean, ridiculous response from Propecia. It was one of those things where, and my baseline was so bad because, backstory, I was the guy on test, the TRT guy, right? So my eventually the androgens increased, the DHT increased, and my baseline just was really bad. So I got on the Propecia, and it was one of those situations where I took it, and then, a few days later, my hair started getting darker. Like I had one of those instant responses. So, after 30 days, I knew, wow, I'm responding so well to this that, it's going to be, a good situation. So I'm 5 months in now, and, I would say the grand slam definitely was the front hairline. I mean, I'm shocked about the front hairline because I had this kind of, mole that, I've had all my life. So I know where my hairline was according to that. And it hasn't been like that in maybe 6 years.
Are you one of those jerks that get their hairlines back with Propecia? That makes everyone pissed off.
I am. I was that guy where the hairstylist was like, wow.
By the way, just be prepared for people to start calling you a Merc shill.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because you've had success like hundreds of thousands, if not millions at this point, of men who do not.
Hundreds of thousands of other shills.
Yeah, who do not spend their time on message forums, who do not spend their time on, these sites that unfortunately that have, been put up because guys who have suffered from adverse side effects or didn't get results. But
no, I got side effects.
Oh, what are the side? Tell me. So you tell me the success story with side effects. Okay, so you grew your hair back.
Well,
Success.
No, there was definitely side effects. Side effects were women started looking at me more. My confidence went up. I'm happier. I mean, it's just terrible. Like the stuff they talked on the forums is terrible.
Yeah,
it's horrible.
Poor guy.
I just am so much happier now. It's just I look better. I look younger. I don't know. It's just terrible, horrible side effects.
It's horrible. It's a horrible, horrible drug.
Yeah, it's vicious. I should have gone with the snake oil salesman and spend $1,000 on fake products.
You should have gone to the gray market guys, the guys that have infiltrated the forums and started private message groups and group buys.
Right.
and gone on that shit, and you would have been much happier, I think.
Yeah, or turkey. You know.
No, but in all fairness to these other guys, some of these guys have had, not great experiences with finasteride, and they've had to go in this direction. I just feel bad for the guys who have never given themselves a fighting chance, or at least seriously considered giving themselves a fighting chance, and sat down with their doctors and weighed the pros and cons and the reality of, what physicians were seeing in their practice, as opposed to just making a decision based on anonymous users on the internet not to give themselves a fighting chance. There's so many young guys out there who really regret that, call us and contact me 7 years after the fact. They started to use finasteride finally, and they're like, God damn it, I wish I would have started when I had more hair. So
right,
you're pretty lucky.
I am. Okay, so I do have a couple questions, if that's all right.
It is absolutely fine.
First, I want to thank you guys for this guidance, because this has been great. It took me a year watching you guys for a year and a half before I decided. So you know what
I find funny about that? You're willing to inject yourself with all kinds of shit, but you were afraid to take Propecia.
Well, my original doctor wouldn't even prescribe it to me. I had a firearm, remember? I called in once, and I had to switch doctors to get Propecia.
He was willing to give you TRT and other hormone replacement, but he was unwilling to give you Propecia. That's out of...
He was trying to sell me a different product. That's why. So he probably made profit off of.
I see. Okay.
You see, because he works with a compounding pharmacy, I have to pay him, and then the compounding pharmacy shifts it to me. So that's why I put kind of two and two together eventually.
Right.
That, okay, that's what's going on. He's making profit off the product.
Motherfuckers.
Right?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So okay, so this is the thing, and obviously this is not Propecia's fault. My crown was already wrecked. I mean, I analyzed it on the show. I was the guy that had the strip down the middle, and Joe knew that I was ambidextrous because of that. Like, he analyzed my crown. So it was already wrecked. Now, it's about 4 inches from the center all the way around. The hair is very, very scarce. Like, no, there's not much terminal hair.
Right.
A lot of vellus hair, but it's not, there's no action. So I guess you're probably going to know my question is, do you think I should start minoxidil right now? Because there's really no action going on in the crown.
I am not a physician, but just as a logical, reasonable, semi-lucid person who understands, this whole game, you've only been on finasteride for 5 months. You have no clue what that area is going to look like in a year. It really depends on when you caught the particular hairs, whether it was in an anagen phase, in a telogen phase. That part of your scalp could have been synchronized differently. You just don't know.
That's exactly what's going on. And that's what I see, because I'm watching the scalp like every day. Everything's unsynchronized on my scalp. Like, they're growing at different rates. One's, hairs are stronger than others. That's what's going on. Yeah. It's kind of confusing to me.
Well, and that's the thing. It's not like you're growing a beard out where it was already synchronized. I mean, you're dealing with a situation where hair doesn't necessarily miniaturize in a equally at the same rate all over your scalp. So that reversal is not going to happen at the same rate. Now, sometimes, and Joe, obviously, we spoke about this last week. Sometimes, all of a sudden, you have complete synchronization. It's synchronized, synchronicity. It's synchronized, and you go through a tremendous shed, and then the synchronization starts to happen. In some cases, that's not the case. You will see growth like you did right away, and then all of a sudden, in 8 or 9 months, you're going to see growth elsewhere. or you may not. But I would not start using minoxidil for at least another 6 months. And frankly, in my view, I mean, that's a risk too, because you can risk dealing with a tremendous shed. Even if you think you're just putting it in those areas of the scalp, the hair that you regrew, it could be affected. You can end up going through a telogen effluvium. So be very careful, man. You know, you want to use one agent at a time, in my view. And if you decide to add things, you add them slowly, but you got to give it time. You're going for the long game. You don't want to fuck yourself up. You're already happy.
Right, and I think what I'm going through is a little hair greed right now. Right?
Yeah,
that's what it is.
You're damn right.
Yeah, it makes sense.
That's probably what it is.
You damn right, man. We all have it, and I have it. I choose to express it differently as far as how I decide to mask it and make myself look like I have more hair. But there are times, and there have been times in my life, even knowing what I know, that I'm just like sitting at a bar, 1 or 2 cocktails too many, and I'm just like, man, I would gain at least a point if I dropped my hairline a little bit and I filled in my bald spot. Maybe 2 points. And my life would be easier if all worked out. But I know that I could fuck myself up. I know how lucky I am. I have gratitude for what I've been able to save and the fact that, yeah, I have to dummy this shit up. And yeah, I had to wear my ventilator to put my hairspray on today because I don't want to give myself, lung disease. That's just the way that it is, and I accept that, and I feel fortunate. But there are times when I do get that hair greed, and I'm like, only if. It's available to me. It's right there for me to reach and grab, but I choose not to do it because I know what could happen. So I feel the same way about using minoxidil for a guy in your situation.
Well, that answers my question. I'm not going to use minoxidil. And then it's a blood pressure medication too. It just, it can go systemic a couple, it's not something I really want to mess with, my gut instinct. But the hair greed, it, confuses you sometimes in making the right decision. So, minoxidil, then I'm going to shelve that idea. I do want to point this out because the last caller asked about a higher dose. And I do want to mention this. I'm on 2.5 milligrams of Propecia.
Oh my God! And you're going to kill yourself.
I'm going to kill myself, right? Nothing, right? So I started off with, and I titrated slowly. I started off with 1, and I noticed, I was getting improvement, but not as much. I just wanted to see if I took more, what would happen. And then, wouldn't you know it, it is dose dependent. For me, at least.
How old are you again?
37.
Okay, but you're on TRT replacement, so hormonally, you're kind of in a different situation. So it's very possible that there's many guys in their 40s and their 50s who take 5 milligrams of Proscar every day for benign prostate hyperplasia who have lived decades doing that without any adverse side effects. I know, and I also have
I'm hoping to go up to 5.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's also a, what is that term, Joe? A point of diminishing returns, right? Is that it?
Threshold?
Threshold, yeah. And it's possible that this is it. This is all you need, and this is all you're going to need for a very long time. So more may not be better at this point because you seem to have a dramatic result. So my advice would just be to give this another 6 months minimum and then talk to your doctor about whatever changes you want to do. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving you medical advice, and I can't. But, you could talk to your doctor about it. But, yeah, I mean, I have a buddy of mine who I grew up with. We both started on 5 milligrams, and he, to this day, still takes 5 milligrams a day. And when he was about 32, I never forget this. And if you're listening, dude, I'm sorry, but I won't give your name out. But We were at a New Year's Eve party somewhere in Queens. And he had this totally hot, smoking, I think she was Dominican, girlfriend. I went to her house, her party. And we're in the kitchen. And he puts his head down. He's like, dude, do you think I'm losing my hair? I almost fainted. It was so, I mean, I couldn't, because when you looked at this guy from the front, he's pretty tall. He had a very strong hairline. I was like, holy mother of God, why didn't you ask me this 2 years ago, dude? You know, so he started using the drug, and he is now, we're the same age. And if you were to see him, he has a slight recessed hairline, very age appropriate, but all of the hair among, where he was losing it, most of it grew back. He saved it, and he's a guy in his mid-50s that has a full head of hair, or full-looking head of hair. So there you go.
That's incredible. This is.
No, he can't have sex. He can't have sex, but he doesn't care. I'm just kidding. He can. He can. He has like a young child that he was on this drug when he had the kid. I think the kid's maybe 7 now or something. So he had kids late. And this guy bangs cocktail waitresses 2 at a time.
He wouldn't be doing that if he had no hair, 100%.
Well, and he also wouldn't be doing that if he couldn't get a fucking hard on.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, also, too, is as men get older, well, the testosterone, studies have shown that testosterone raises with Propecia about 15% as well, which should make you more virile. So I think, as you said, that any side effects someone might get, they're just temporary. You know what I mean?
It really depends on the person. We're all different. But I will tell you this.
Right.
People are really cruel. I'd go online sometimes, and there was one point in my career, you can go back online and see it, I was 30 pounds heavier. I was in person I didn't seem as fat, but on camera I looked heavier, and when I would sit, you see the weight in your chest a little bit. Guy actually came on. It was some other chat. I think it was GFQ's chat. And I was like, yeah, you can tell you're on Propecia because you have man boobs. Let me tell you, I lost that weight. And because I've always kind of exercised and worked out, I would say that I have the petrol area of a pretty young person. And I've been on this drug for 20 some odd years. It is very rare that side effect occurs. And so as far as feminizing effects, yeah, it can happen. There can be aromatizing effects, absolutely. But there are a lot of men that take this that will contact me and say they are doing better in the gym. They are making faster gains, or they don't have to work out as much to maintain their lean body mass. So, but the reality is 15% of free-flowing testosterone increase, it's really not that much. So it's not like you're on steroids or anything. But it may actually keep your weight down. It all just depends on the person.
Right.
So, listen, dude, we're going to let you go. We're going to take some more calls. I am glad, it's so great to hear success stories because all you read online are the horror stories. Not all. I mean, more people are coming out with their success stories. But my hope is, and Joe, I think this is important. You should make a thumbnail for this show. Okay. And the thumbnail should be Propecia success story.
Ooh.
And let people hear this.
There you go.
It's amazing. I mean, I am 5 months in, grand slam. I mean, I cannot imagine what the next 5 months to a year is going to be. So
Propecia grand slam
really
success story.
So
.com.
Thank you so much.
That'll get him clicking.
Really appreciate it.
All right, man. Listen, you take care. Good luck, and keep us posted. And please don't call me and say you started minoxidil.
No, I'm not going to do it. No.
All right.
Definitely not.
Okay. As my friends over at the Garandino show would say, don't be stupid.
Thank you. Well, I'll try not to be.
All right. Good luck. All right. Take care.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
See you guys. Bye-bye.
That just gave me a fucking idea, dude. Now I know what we need to do. 888
Okay.
659 3727. That's 888 659 excuse me, 3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Where are you calling from and what's your name?
Hey, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfectly. My name is Winnan, and I'm calling from overseas, about halfway around the world.
Where? From where?
In China.
You're in China.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think this is our first Chinese call.
Holy shit.
Yeah, well, I'm not Chinese, as you can probably tell. But
how would I
I'm in
know?
China.
You can be I could say Chinese, a Chinese person. Am I allowed to say Chinese person now? I don't even know what I can say. You can be a Chinese person who was educated in the United States and decided to move back to China.
Right. It's possible. Anyway, long story short, I'm through Joe. Is Joe there?
Joe is he's here, man. Yeah.
What's your name?
I've corresponded with Joe through email, and so he's given me some good information, and for which I thank him. And but I was wanting to throw something out here. I love the name of your show. I mean, I don't think you could have worked on that for a million years and never come up with a better name.
I appreciate that. Unfortunately, there are people out there who are constantly stealing it.
You might have a take on it than I do, though.
Say it again?
Because, well, I say you might have a different take on the meaning of your name than I do. So let me put it in the form of a question. The bald truth is blank.
I don't even know how to answer that. The bald truth is what?
Yeah, okay. Let me tell you my take on it.
Yeah.
Here's the bald truth. The bald truth is that there is no truth in the hair transplant industry.
Very good.
I like that. I like that. Or you could say that the truth about the hair transplant industry is exposed like a bald head. Huh?
Right.
When you listen to the bald truth.
Yep, the bald truth is there is no truth in the hair transplant industry.
The bald truth is that the truth is shrouded in the hair transplant industry and has been in the hair loss industry and has been since its fucking inception. Since there were guys who were standing on the back of a fucking stagecoach actually selling snake oil to put on people's scalps.
Right. So, I have had, for the record, let's put it.
Dude, I know you're calling from China, but how are you calling? Is it on a cell phone or Skype?
It's well, it's not Skype. It's Gmail phone.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so I have had, for the record, 4 procedures, and this is all of which have been in the States, and with 3 different physicians. And first of all, this is what they will never tell you. They will take advantage of you. And we all know what the V word is, right?
Victory? Vulnerable?
Vulnerability.
Right.
That's the name of the game, right? This is why I can't stand any of these guys, at least in the U.S. They know you're vulnerable. And they are more than willing and able and very zealous, I should say, to take advantage of your vulnerability. Correct?
That's what I've been trying to preach for that's what I've been preaching for 21 years.
Yes. And so this is what if they were not scam artists, which they are, this is the first thing they would tell you. Am I right or wrong? They would say, my last name is Russ. They would say, Mr. Russ, let me get something clear up front. You have gone bald, but you are going bald. In other words, the procedure, if we opt to do it, or if you opt to have us do a procedure on you, we will make a freak show out of you. Does that make sense?
Well, listen, it makes sense if you were sadly in front of the wrong consultant or sadly in front of the wrong physician, because there's an interesting video that just came out. And I think it's important to speak to this because this makes a lot of sense now. You know, I mean, there's a good correlation here. It's from a consultant who has been in the business for many, many years, who actually, basically, it's like, you know, he's confessing on the internet and stating that, you know, he hated that he was forced, and I use that term in air quotes, to sell surgery to people who were not candidates for surgery. And that now at this point in his life, you know, maybe it's a come to Jesus moment. No pun intended, guys, if you know what I'm talking about. But maybe it's a come to Jesus moment where he's out there saying that not everyone makes a great candidate for surgery. You know, it's possible that, you know, they see, you know, the direction that we're going in, and we say that. But this is a guy that actually admitted that he saw that vulnerability and needed to make that sales quota in order to keep his job, and was willing to do whatever it took to get somebody who was vulnerable and who didn't need surgery or who was not a candidate for surgery to actually undergo surgery. And to me, that is I'm glad that he put this out there, but that speaks to the reality of this field. And if there's any consultant out there who had done that for a long period of time and now is all of a sudden coming to a come to Jesus moment, I can tell you this, and this guy could be a different situation, but in general, a leopard never changes its spots. It just doesn't happen. If you had the ability to harm people at one point in your life, it's possible. I mean, people change. They do. But it's possible that whatever changes you're making in your life right now may not be as profound as you think. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because I just saw this video and I thought it was really apropos. And the reality is, it sounds to me like you were standing in front of a person who is willing to sell you anything.
Well, my point is that I would say at least 95, if not 99% of at least the ones in the States. This is according to my experience. Like I said, I've had 4 procedures, 3 different physicians, none of which told me what you must tell a person who comes in for consultation. You must tell him this. You have not gone bald. You are going bald. In other words, maybe that didn't communicate 5 minutes ago when I said it. If you're going bald, whatever hair they extract from the back of your head and put it in the front is going to stand out like a scorch. Now, we're talking, my first procedure was, 83. That was 35 years ago?
Yeah, that was a dark ages.
At the time, you're talking plugs with a capital P.
Oh, yeah. So, I was almost sold the same thing, dude. Guy sat me down, Dr. Norman Orenreich, let him rest in peace. He recently died. The godfather of hair transplants. And he sat me down. I was 22 years old. And he said, if you were my own son, I would advise you to try a few and see if you like them. My hairline was so fucking low, he would have created horns of plugs in the temporal region, $25 a piece, by the way. And he was willing to do that to a young kid. And let me tell you something. When I was 21 years old, I looked like I was 14. I mean, I looked like a fucking baby. The fact that he was willing to do that to me I just was able to, and I was desperate. I stood back and I was like, there's something fucked up here. I just knew it.
Well, you weren't as vulnerable as I was. And let me tell you how vulnerable I was. The very first physician that did a procedure on me, his name is Peyton. You ever heard of that guy? I think he was doing it on the side at the time. This is like 35 years ago in Texas.
In Texas? Peyton. No, I mean, he probably wasn't a well-known doctor.
No, I think he did it on the side. But anyway, just to give you an indication of the level of my vulnerability, he actually showed me pictures of patients that had undergone procedures with him, and they looked horrible. And I remember they looked horrible, and yet I was still willing to undergo the procedure. That's vulnerability with a capital V.
How old
Am
were
I
you?
right?
How old were you?
Oh, I was about 35. It was about 30 years old, 29 years old, I think.
Okay. That is vulnerable. It's kind of like looking at an artist who's going to paint a portrait. You're hiring someone to commissioning a portrait of your family, and everything they paint looks like shit. But you're like, all right, I'll give it a shot.
So, but anyway, the second guy was he died in a plane crash. You probably heard of him. He was fairly famous at the time.
Chambers.
Chambers.
Yeah.
Chambers.
Yeah.
He gave me an impression, at least, that he was a people person. He loved people. He got along with everybody.
That guy made so much money in this industry, and he was looked at and revered by the establishment and all the politicians of this industry. And I can tell you for a fact that when I got into this field, one of the names that I heard the most as far as the walking wounded, and I'm sorry for his relatives, and I know he has a son, but it was Chambers' name that came up. And
I believe it.
Yeah.
Well, check this out. I just recently, after 30-some years, I saw the back of my head for the first time. I'm talking recently. It is a war zone. And but I do believe I still have enough donor area I want to go for one more shot. And I don't really look that bad because the last procedure I had basically took the cornrow look away.
Who did the last procedure?
He was the guy that followed Chambers. I think I had 2 procedures with Chambers, and then one by the guy his name was Panovich.
What was his name?
Panovich, the guy that took over Chambers.
Yeah, dude. All I can say, and this is not your fault, because it was what was available to you at the time, and it was hard to do research. But you couldn't have picked a sadder lineup, in my view. I understand why you feel the way that you feel, based on your experiences.
Well, listen to this, Spencer. I was listening to, this was a couple of days ago, I was listening to a former broadcast. This was about a year ago. My mother lives in Boca Raton. Is that a good enough introduction?
Yeah.
And I was listening to a person you had on your show.
Yeah.
Which I am sure is not an exception to the rule. He's talking about bombing this, bombing that, bombing PRC, and you were trying to tell him that, according to your understanding, PRC doesn't work. And his answer is, well, there's PRC and then there's PRC. Oh, yeah. So,
well, listen, all I can say is this, and I'm going to be completely candid with you, and this is not to protect Dr. Bauman in any way. You hear the way that I speak to all of the people that I have on the show. I speak my truth. You will meet a lot of happy patients coming out, as far as surgical patients, coming out of his practice. You may not, and I never said that I don't believe in PRP. I said that I know that not all PRP is created equal, and there's only a handful of guys that I have seen good results come from, period. And they are using the right PRP kits. They understand the nuances of either having an open system or closed system, whether or not they're getting the right amount of platelets and the right regeneration of platelets. There's a lot to it. And I've seen, if I'm going to be completely candid, a person in my personal life who flies down, not to Dr. Bauman, but to somebody else in Florida, this guy by the name of Joe Greco, to have PRP 4 times a year. And this is a female. She uses nothing else. She had significant female pattern hair loss. Now it's barely visible, and this is all she does for herself. So I believe that this can be an answer for some people, but I also believe that most people are using PRP as a fucking money grab, and most people don't fully understand what they're re-injecting into people's scalps.
So here's what I would say. If a person is on the up and up, if a hair transplant physician is on the up and up, this is what, at the very least, this is what he would say to you. You come in for consultation. You are a Norwood 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever. And it will take you, and I understand what you're looking for as far as final result. And so it would take you a minimum 2, 3, 4 procedures to get that result. And secondly, this is what it's going to cost you. But they go out of their way never to tell you what it's going to cost you. Am I right?
I would say that you're right about that in most cases.
In most cases, yeah. But there are, and I certainly understand your pain, your angst, your views. I completely get it.
If I were you, I would be fucking pissed.
Yeah, absolutely. But this is the kind of industry where it's like muddy water, but in the water there's one area of clarity, and it's a very small area, and it's occupied by just a few clinics that do actually give a shit, and that's why Spencer's been able to have the standards that he's had, to where physicians he works with, they represent, as he always says, a great place to start. No one's perfect, but there are areas of this industry where you'll find how can I put this, clarity, openness, and honesty about what any particular patient that walks in is going to be dealing with. And I say that because I know for a fact, doctors I work with, even some doctors I don't work with, they understand the long game with this business. On the business side of things, they understand that this isn't a short game, it's a long game, and that if they are constantly leading people astray and just telling them what patients want to hear just to get them in the chair, then they're going to have a bad reputation. They're not going to enjoy what they're doing, and they're going to have unhappy patients. And there are a few clinics out there that understand that is not the way to do business. And so I hear what you're saying. I feel it because I've been there, but there are some spots of light where the truth is told.
Well, and here's the thing. We are in a completely different industry now. When you were involved and you had your transplants, it was a much smaller space. The internet really was barely in its existence by the time you had your 4th surgery. And, doctors didn't have targets on their backs who were harming people as they do today. And there weren't as many choices for people as they are today. So now for a physician to work the long game and make the money, because that's why they do what they do. And there's a handful, like a few, that have a passion based on their own experiences as hair loss sufferers and surgical recipients. But they understand that if they play it like their forefathers, and that's why I always blame the politicians and the so-called pioneers of this field. Most of them were not pioneers. They were pioneers in doing what they did to you. But if they follow that path, if they don't learn from history, that they are going to become irrelevant, and they're going to ruin their reputation very, very fast. So it's a different game now. However, with that said, there are so many short-term guys that are entering the field, the guys that are buying turnkey devices, the plastic and cosmetic surgeons who are being sold a bill of goods because they don't know any better. They don't know they're going to be harming patients or they're going to have assistants harming patients. They don't know that yet until the harmed patients come back into their practice. So there's a lot of short gamers out there now, thousands, many more than there were before. So ultimately, this is a more dangerous place, but the real hair transplant surgeons, in my view, are taking their work much more seriously and are realizing that if they don't provide their patients with full disclosure, all the information they need, the entire scope and possible pitfalls of the surgery, that they're fucked. So I understand. I understand your bitterness. You are right to be bitter. I totally get it. But things are changing.
Let me offer some constructive criticism in the future. If you ever have another hair transplant doctor on the show, I would suggest that you have him show before and after pictures of his actual patients and what the cost was. See that?
Well, just so you know, I mean, this is a guy that's actually, we've been working with for a long time. So we've seen countless before and after pictures as far as his surgery is concerned. And his cost is out there full force. I mean, he is one of the most expensive surgeons out there. And he does not hide that fact. And also, he is a guy that talks about charging for consultation. So as far as cost is concerned, and just to let you know, and I appreciate the constructive criticism. I just want you to know that this stuff's already been out there. So if you watch a couple of more shows, you'll hear him talk about price, and you'll hear him talk about, charging for consultations and things of that nature. But I totally get what you're saying as far as, the vibe that someone can get from hearing any doctor talk about PRP or answering my questions about their type of PRP. And going through what you've gone through, I would look at every motherfucker with a jaundiced eye, just like you are. So I don't take offense to it, and I appreciate the constructive criticism. The reality is, one thing about this particular doctor is his prices and the fact that he is not afraid to charge for a consultation is right out there for public consumption.
Yeah, well, here's how you know, in my view, the quality of a guy's work. Okay, if you go to his site, you will see pictures of men. As I speak, you will see pictures of men who were formerly bald. And now, the guy is paid at least $15,000, $20,000, $25,000. Previously, he was maybe a Norwood 7. Now he looks like he's severely going bald. That's his pictures, Spencer. His pictures.
Sure. And would you say that's an honest assessment of the work?
I would say this. Well, once again, you go back to vulnerability. And you hear people, the guys who look terrible that have had work done by this guy. I won't say his name again. He's in Boca Raton, okay? So you go on YouTube. They got television news shows.
There's only one guy that actually is out there who's made it his mission. And and I will tell you that there's not a doctor that I know, only one or two, that doesn't have one of these guys that are out there trying to, destroy somebody's reputation because they had a bad experience. That happens.
So I'm the opposite. I'm saying a person that praises the man's work, and yet he was formerly bald, and now he looks like he's severely going bald. And this is a guy who praises the man. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's the vulnerability of it. So this was my particular experience as well. After I had a procedure done, like say by Chambers, I was optimistically satisfied with it because I don't know why. How can I explain it? Because it didn't look good. Just like this guy's work looks terrible, but he's satisfied with it because who knows why? But it's not good.
Now, I'm just curious about, I know about your particular situation. And you know what? First of all, I want to let you know This is an important call. So I want you to be able to speak your mind, but I also have to kind of be the voice of reason. So don't think I'm out there just defending anybody. I'm out there trying to provide both, ends of the spectrum and both sides of the story here. What was bad in your mind besides this guy looking like he's thinning about the transplant? What can you actually describe about the transplant that you would say is a bad transplant?
He doesn't. I mean, if you interviewed anybody on the street and said this guy has $25,000 to have plastic surgery done on him, the first thing the guy would say, well, I know it isn't a hair transplant. That's $25,000 less, Spencer. Hello.
Well, listen. Money aside, and that aside, if you were to see this guy on the street, would you think that he had anything done?
No, that's my point.
Well, that's the point. That's the point of a natural hair transplant.
Let me jump in here. That is the point of any natural hair transplant, or that is the point of a hair transplant, is to look natural. And I want to jump in on this because I myself have had more surgical work on for my hair than most people on the planet, and I get comments that echo exactly what you're saying. My hairline's too high. I wasted my time. I wasted my, I get comments.
Terrible
from
comments.
People
mean.
Saying, terrible comments. People saying that it's a horrible hair transplant. Why? Because my hairline is not, 4 fingers above my eyebrows. And what this leads to is, I'm happy with it. And it looks natural because it doesn't look like a transplant. But it's not something that other people would want to have, and they criticize me because they say I wasted my money, or I wasted my my donor hair for what I have. So the point of all this is, as long as it looks like it wasn't a hair transplant, as long as it doesn't look pluggy, as long as it doesn't have angles and directions that are contrary to what you would find on a natural head of hair, and it only looks thin, then I think this guy has every right to be happy. Money be damned. The money part is irrelevant to him because he got what he thinks looks good on him. It doesn't look like a hair transplant. So to him, it's money well spent. And I understand that.
And if anyone's displaying images that shows thinning after pictures, that means that they're showing actual images.
Reality.
They're showing the reality as opposed to what other people show, which are guys that look like they have a full head of hair.
And to expound on that, I've literally listened to consultants taking photos saying, we need to redo this one because it's showing too much weakness. Not being honest about the images. So for this guy to not just for this guy to be happy with his own photos that he's putting out there showing the reality, but for the doctor apparently to be perfectly fine with it, I think that's a plus. And this actually goes towards what you're talking about, where doctors aren't showing the real deal. In this case, they are. In this case, the patient is, and he's happy with it. So I understand your point, but at the same time, your point is being, exemplified by this patient being honest about his result.
Joe, I think he needs to be told that he shouldn't be happy with it. Anyway, in other words,
but how bad you? I mean, if this guy is happy, let's put it this way, and I understand your point, but why not let him just be happy?
Well, I'm just, you see things from your particular standpoint, and I see things from my particular standpoint.
Absolutely,
so,
and I appreciate your point of view. Believe me.
Yeah,
I'm looking at it from my viewpoint, and my viewpoint is my experience. My experience is, here's another thing about Mr. Boca Raton. I know for a fact, okay, I'm definitely not going to mention a name. I know a hair transplant physician who went to this doctor and who told me, and this guy is credible, who told me that the doctor himself did not do the work. And most, if not all, of the work that was done did not take. And I use that word. In other words, he spent his money for nothing.
Who's the doctor?
The results that he got, Mr. Boca Raton, man. I told you I'm not going to
no.
say his name anymore.
Who's the hair transplant doctor that went to Mr. Boca Raton, man?
I'm not going to put his name out there.
Okay.
But I talked personally. I have every reason to believe, just from my own personal experience, that what he's saying is, because a lot of these guys, Spencer, you know this, a lot of these famous physicians, they don't even do they might cut the slits for the recipient side, but they don't take the hair out.
For the entirety, the way this industry has been developed, and this is the sad truth, but for the most part, whether it's strip or FUE, technicians have played a major role in everyone's surgery that sits down in that chair. And, that is something that I've always really tried to get out there to the consumer, that you need to know who your technicians are. You need to know who these people are who are working on you. And if there are physicians out there who are unable to tell you who these people are, then you might want to look at them with a jaundiced eye. If they are not on their websites, or if you ask them how much experience they have, if you're asked to meet the technicians, you're asked to watch them work, and you're not allowed to do that, then that's a problem. But there's not a surgeon, hair transplant surgeon in this field there's a few that use physician assistants, PAs, or registered nurses, but that doesn't have someone with them at least helping out. Now, there's one or two guys who do the entire procedure themselves, but again, with the help of at least one assistant. That's very rare. When it comes to FUE, there are only a handful of guys that are doing their own extractions, and most doctors in this field, most, not all, but they cannot place grafts. If you ask them to do it, they'll be like, that's why we have these technicians. I don't place grafts. That's the sad reality, and that's what we talk about every fucking week, almost, on this program. So what you're telling me is not a surprise. It's unfortunate that the guy's grafts didn't grow. Sadly, that also is not a surprise, as far as that happens all the time. Every week there's with the best of them. That every week there's somebody out there who has a hair transplant, or multiple people. And even if a doctor does the entire procedure, they may get zero growth. Yep. Our message is surgery is a last resort. Before you get into this, know everything you're getting into, period. And we try to work with the vulnerable patients like yourself and show them the light before they make a decision. So at the very least, they go in knowing, you know what? I just signed on the dotted line. I may get fucked up, but I'm willing to take a chance.
Well, before I go, I just wanted to say I appreciate your show and everything. My correspondence to Joe, he's helped me immensely, and I do plan to, because I have enough donor where I can go in for another. But I've done my homework this time, and I plan to call in the future and let you guys know what the outcome of my latest potential fiasco.
So instead of calling us from China, you're going to be calling us from Boca?
No, I'm not going to be calling you. But,
well, real quick, where are you going to go for your next procedure? Where are you headed?
Well, I'm not going to say that now. I'll tell you in the future if it's a good result, which I have every reason to believe that it is. And I do see things from another standpoint, and that is this: in the U.S., you got a lot more expenses as a doctor, malpractice, etc., than a person in another country. I know that too.
Yes.
And I understand that. At the same time, these guys are vultures, man. And I think they still are. I have no reason to believe anything else, but that they still are. And I mean, to charge people the prices that they charge and have the results, I would say the vast majority of the results that they show. I would say the good results that they show, I mean, the guy paid $45,000, $50,000, $60,000. Who knows? But compared to somebody who's had if you looked at this guy and he says, do you think I need hair transplant surgery? You would immediately say yes. And yet this is a guy who spent $30,000, $35,000 already.
Well, again, it's all relative. It depends on how bald the person is and what their expectations are. Here's the reality. You never have enough supply to meet the demand. Hair transplants give you an illusion of having fuller hair. In some cases, if you're really lucky, a full-looking head of hair. That is the anomaly of a guy who is severely bald. Period. We let everybody know that, and I make sure that they know that. And I tell people, and so does Joe, if you could avoid surgery, fucking avoid it.
Mm-hmm.
Period. That's the reality. Well, listen, dude, I can't tell you how much I appreciate the fact that you're calling us from fucking China. And I'm glad that we have a new listener and a new fan of the broadcast. And don't think that I'm not listening to everything that you're saying. And this will obviously stay. This is not going to be edited out. We want the reality. We want people's opinions to be out there. That's what the show is all about. So I just want to thank you for, telling us about your experiences and being candid about your opinions.
Okay, guys.
All right, man.
Enjoyed it, and I'll be back.
All right, good luck.
All right, thanks for calling.
Bye-bye. 888-659-3727.
I found that guy's email. It's like all I did was type in China in my my inbox, and I immediately went to this long email back and forth I had with him.
If I were that guy, if I were that fucking dude, I'd probably be more bitter. That's, don't fuck with my shit. That's how I am.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to survive it. 888-659-3727. Oh, shit. I don't know who's holding the longest. Now all the lines are lit. All right.
Do the one furthest to the left.
That was dumb. I don't want this guy to hang up. He's holding on for a long time. All right. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hey, Spencer. Hey, Joe. It's Rick from Virginia. How you guys doing?
Rick from Virginia.
Hey, Rick.
We are fine. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. I wanted to call. What's that?
What part of Virginia are you in?
Northern Virginia, close to D.C.
Okay. A lot of D.C. guys. Okay. Well, what can we help you with?
So two things. One, I just wanted to call to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. I've been listening now for, I guess, about almost a year, just under a year, and was a Norwood 2-ish, going to a 3, but more in the crown, kind of, 2V, going that route, and really slow progression with that, and just chicken shit to actually get on and use finasteride. And you guys sort of pushed me over the edge and just made me believe that, all the stuff that I was reading and all the things wasn't true. And, I gave it a shot, and now it's basically in about 9 months, not only halted my hair loss, but I pretty much got full coverage, back in the crown and getting denser and denser almost every day. So, it's a pleasure to wake up and look at my head in the mirror, and I thank you guys for that.
Well, that's great. But
congratulations.
A little money wouldn't hurt,
Yeah. But two, the second reason I was calling was I got a bone to pick with you guys.
Yeah.
So you guys, I listened. I wouldn't say.
Thank you and go fuck yourself.
Yeah, but in all seriousness, though. So yeah, thank you, but fuck you, no. So I listen fairly regularly, and the hair transplant stuff. I know you guys are pushing that and we're basically in extremis, and you're pushing the basically the state that the industry is in. We got to change it. Okay. That's what I mean. You guys are pushing that.
All right.
But what I don't understand is I listen week after week, and I hear these guys calling in with the horror stories and everything that's going on with the hair transplant industry. Why? And you guys always say we don't push medication. We don't. Why not? Why is prevention? Why do you guys not push that? I feel like it's one thing to go after the walking wounded and the doctors that are letting this situation devolve, but why not also attack it from another angle and stop the guys that before they lose their hair? If you guys,
well, I don't know how. I mean, you say you've been listening for a long time. I mean, my mantra is, my life was completely changed because of medication. I am the guy that I am targeted online because I tell my story, and that I'm being told by these anti-Propecia guys that I am killing people, that I have blood in my hands, that, how can you promote a medication that is damaging people's lives? How can you this, that, and the other thing? So I don't know what show you're listening to. Now I got a bone to pick with you.
No, I guess I mean. So it seems like you put forth obviously a ton of effort and time that us listeners can't even fathom. We just tune in twice a week, right?
Yeah.
For a couple hours, and I know you're working nonstop on this, both of you guys on it. But what do you think? The situation could be changed even more if, like, primary care physicians, hey, someone comes in for just their annual physical checkup and the doctor notices that the guy's losing his hair a little bit, if they would just, most people are afraid to talk to their doctors, which is why, like, keeps and hymns and stuff are so popular and coming out now. But if the doctor mentioned, like, hey, I noticed you're losing your hair a little bit up there, there's a medication for that. Are you interested in talking about that, or does it bother you at all or anything? Like, I think exponentially the problem would decrease.
These guys don't want to be sued, man. These guys are fucking terrified.
They don't want to be sued. They're terrified. A lot of them
by, like, John Doe in the chat room. By guys like John Doe. They're terrified of this shit.
Yeah, they're terrified of it. A lot of them don't even know any sort of reality about finasteride. All they know is what they're told themselves, what they hear themselves. You got to understand that doctors are not experts on medication. They really aren't. And I say that because there's so many different medications for so many different ailments. What they know about are what they learn about, the basics in medical school. But then as they go through their career, they learn about different medications through different seminars. They learn about medications through sales reps coming in their office. Mostly
sales reps now.
Yeah. Mostly sales reps. They learn about medications from their colleagues who are saying, yeah, we're trying this. You might want to consider it for your patients. It's a racket in and of itself. But back to the finasteride issue, most of them know less than the average hair loss consumer that's doing their own research about the medication. They really don't know. And when you walk in and you might have, a thinning crown or something, the last thing they're going to do is volunteer that you take another medication for a problem that they may not even feel is a problem. I mean, it's not their job to address cosmetic issues, and it is a cosmetic issue. I mean, yes, it's a poison of the soul.
Yeah, it's so much more than a cosmetic issue.
No, I know that, but to a doctor, it is strictly cosmetic. A medical doctor looks at it as like your family doctor. It's strictly cosmetic. 100%.
My whole mantra, my whole life's work is that, and I would get shit for this too. Hair loss is a cancer of the spirit. Hair loss is a disease of the spirit. Those are my lines. And you know what? Motherfuckers come out and like, how can you compare this to cancer? I never compared it to cancer. I said it's a cancer of the spirit. It is something that erodes a person's self-esteem. It's something that can, in many cases, completely alter the trajectory of their lives. It is something that is not looked at by society as something that is that profound. And sadly, it is the last bastion of political incorrectness in our world. So not only are we suffering with it, we are made to feel like there's something wrong with us, or we're vain, or we're insecure because we are suffering with it and we want to do something about it. So there's a
Right.
double, triple, quadruple whammy. And then if you treat it, I mean, oh my God, I have actually been at cocktail parties, as obnoxious as that sounds to me for some reason. And, talking about this issue, when women are saying how vain their husbands are for wanting to take this medication, how selfish they are because they know that they could be harming themselves in their sex lives and they're willing to do that. I'm like,
Really?
what the fuck?
Right.
Vain?
These are the same
I'll tell you
people
what,
that
why don't
like
you go into the
making
fucking
fun of people.
bathroom and wash off that fucking mask? Do me a
Right.
favor.
Right. Yep.
Jesus
Right.
Christ. Selfish. God
Right. Yeah.
almighty.
How many women would even come out the house without makeup on? Right. Yeah.
Would not fucking happen.
Would not. Yeah.
I actually knew this girl. Most of the women that I was been with in my life, I've been lucky enough they've been very natural and not a lot of makeup. But I was with this one chick. I swear to you, there's no doubt in my mind that she woke up early to do her makeup and then came back to bed so that she looked the same all the fucking time.
Yeah.
And we're talking about like their 90s, so I mean, but if it was today, I would have set up some fucking mini time-lapse camera to get that shit, down. Because, and I'm telling, I mean, and forget about black women. Love them to death, but you cannot touch a black woman's hair.
No.
A, you don't know what the fuck's
Yeah,
going on
yeah.
in there. You have no idea what's going on in there. And B, you cannot touch it. You can't get it wet. In a way, I kind of relate to black women in that respect because I'm the same way. Don't want to get my hair wet. Don't touch my hair. But,
Don't touch it.
don't touch. But listen, I get what you're saying. You're 100% right. Sadly, and this is why I'm questioned a lot. I'm contacted by the media and they ask me about these new wellness websites, men's wellness websites that are selling hair loss products, finasteride, minoxidil, and selling, generic generic Viagra and all these other things. And I'm kind of like torn because I think that at the very least, there's a lot of men now who are able, young men, especially millennials, taking advantage of finasteride. And they're getting it directly to they don't even know what the fuck it is. They don't put two and two together that's Propecia. So they're not reading about the dangers of finasteride and about all these, post-finasteride syndrome and stuff like that. I guess they could. But a lot of these guys, it just seems different than them getting actual Propecia. And they're buying it. Right. And these companies are doing really well. Hims is fucking killing it. I know Keeps is, I think they recently got another round of funding. But my problem is also that I'm not a big fan of this type of telemedicine. I do think that people should be under a doctor's care. So I'm torn. I think that, you know what, guys at least have access now to help themselves in a way that just wasn't available before. And I hate this term, but these companies have started the conversation that it's okay to be concerned about your hair loss.
Right.
Which I think is a very positive message.
Yeah, they're great commercials, man. The commercials that they have for these things in the magazines and TV or whatever, it's definitely getting the message out there. I listen to the show faithfully, and I just hear these guys, and I just think like, finasteride is so cheap now. I mean, it's kind of like you get a headache, you just think, oh, let me go pop an aspirin or something. It's just like, imagine what the state of hair loss would or wouldn't be like if when everybody realized they were losing their hair, they just popped a pill, and for 80-some-odd%, whatever the trials were, or whatever the test was, 86%.
How old are you?
Done, cured.
How old are you now?
43.
Okay, well, I can tell you, I started this. I'm a decade older than you, so when I was starting this, you were like 20 or something like that. Not even, I don't know, something like that. So, the whole thing back then was no one was writing about these potential long-term adverse side effects back then. And those who found the program, and we were on some big stations, and a lot of people read the book, they jumped right on it. There was like no guessing. They were on that fucking pill, and they changed their lives. Most of the guys that contacted us. So initially, this show was all about Propecia. it was all about guys talking about their positive experiences every fucking week. I was just like, how can I do this every week? You know, I mean, that's all they were talking about. Read the book, blah, blah, blah. Got on Propecia, you saved my life. Okay, next, thanks. Read the book, blah, blah, blah. Got on Propecia, you saved my life. And that was awesome. And then all of a sudden, fucking tables turned, man. And, you know, a handful of guys with very loud voices and very heavy drums got out there and scared the living shit out of people.
What is the deal with that? I get it. You know, I'm sure, again, like I've heard you and Joe say, I'm sure there's people out there that are kind of the one-offs and those sort of things. But like, I mean, it's sort of ruining it for people to even want to try. I mean, for 7 years, I was scared to try it because of that shit. And it burns me up. That's why I'm, you know, calling today is I'm just like, man, it just makes me angry. I wish, you know, I found you guys sooner, and I wish I just had the freaking nerve to do it and take it. You know, I wouldn't have been, you know, worrying about my hair loss for 7 fucking years, you know?
Well,
and these guys
listen,
are ruining it for everybody.
That's what we talk about. But I understand their point of view. I really do. Listen, I'm a very proactive person. So if I started to use this medication and it fucked me up, the book that I would have written would have been a much different book. And the drug would have gotten off the ground. I wrote about my experiences and that I found this drug before it was approved for Propecia. And then as soon as the drug was approved as Propecia, that's when all the publishers came calling. And I had the top 4 publishing houses, now it's the top 5, all bidding for that book. That is, for a first-time author, that's unheard of. I'm not a celebrity. I was nobody as far as like in the public's eye. I would have had even more people bidding on that book if I wrote something negative about the drug. And I would have made more money. That's the way the world works. They like salacious stuff. They want those type of headlines. They want the guy who's fucked up on something.
Right. Yeah, because that's what gets attention, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So exactly. I mean, I got a significantly big. I mean, for a first-time author, I got the advance of an author that was probably back then would have close to being a best-selling author, or at least someone who was known. If I had a negative experience, I would say my advance would probably have been possibly in the 7 figures. So, wow. You know, that is what people hear. People, you know, the negativity is what people are drawn to. And sadly, that really scares the shit out of people. And, you know, that type of negative social proof, in some instances, depending on what you're doing, could be really bad. It's not going to be a positive thing as far as getting attention. But in this case, there's enough people who were upset about something, and they made a stink about it, and it got a lot of attention. And then the attorneys jumped on it because they were like, hey, wait a second, check this out. You know, believe me, some young guy came in there and was like, we could fucking sue this drug company. Let's start a class action suit. And then one litigation starts, and then everyone follows suit.
Right.
That's the way it fucking works. But listen, man, I'm glad you were helped. I'm glad you finally found us. I'm sorry that it took 7 years for you to get on the drug. You can blame some of the guys out there who have been, fear-mongering. But again, I keep repeating myself because I do feel this way. If I was fucked up by it, I'd be on that bandwagon myself.
Right.
That's human nature, man.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know. I pretty much, ever since it's been working for me, I grab like everybody I know that's losing their hair and say, hey man, look at my head. You gotta get on this thing, man. Whatever you do, don't go on the internet. Don't read anything. There's this pill. Ask your doctor. Take it.
I hope you're not walking up to random people and doing that.
No. People I know. Well, you know.
Well, I chose to address random people, and the way that I did that was to get a book published and to get on the radio. And I told, at the time and over the years, millions of random people about my experience. And sadly, there's a lot of people that hate me for it because they just don't like the fact that I'm talking about my experience, which was positive.
And that you had success.
Yeah.
And I had success
At that
with
point.
it. Yeah. So, all right, man, listen, we're going to go. Joe,
All right.
listen, thanks a lot for the call. Congratulations, by the way. We love hearing positive stories.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much for calling and tell us about it.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Take care.
Joe, I do have to go, but this guy's been holding on for a while. Do you want to take this call quick?
Yeah, as long as they understand it's quick. Yeah.
Okay. All right, dude. You got a couple of minutes. Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this? Where are you calling from? Oh, I guess he couldn't. He held on for a long time. I guess he couldn't hold on any longer. All right. Well, showtime.
There you go.
We're going to call it a night. I guess I have to remind Joe every time to talk about the websites because we'd like to get it out there early in the next show. Like
You got to remind me.
Well, I could do it.
He's blaming me for this.
No,
it's like earlier on. We got the intro that we do, and you start talking. And
you're absolutely right. Everything is Spencer Kobren's fault. I take the blame for everybody's woes.
Well, your name is on the show, so
Jesus, I know.
Yeah, you are the captain, and you're responsible for everything on your ship.
That's true. I take full responsibility. Anyway, give out the websites of our friends, the guys that actually care about, in my view, helping everybody, helping their users,
and aren't concerned about making a buck from working with us.
Yes.
I like that. Anyway, all right. So let's start off with the first one in France. It is international-hairlossforum.com. It is a French hair loss and hair restoration forum. Lots of clinics sharing great results and lots of patients, even more important, sharing their experiences, good and bad. That's international-hairlossforum.com. Check it out. Next up, we got bellycapelli.forumfree.it. It's the funny little sounding website that could. It is the Italian, I just made that one up. The Italian hair loss and hair restoration website. Again, lots of clinics participating, sharing results, and lots of patients sharing their results and experiences, both good and bad. That's bellycapelli.forumfree.it. And finally, we've got hairlossexperiences.com. It is a primarily UK-based forum, but lots of clinics are sharing their results and lots of patients are sharing their experiences internationally, worldwide. Check them out. That's hairlossexperiences.com.
Joe Tillman's website is hairtransplantmentor.com. That's everything Joe Tillman. Check it out. Great information. And also, you kind of get to see a little bit about Joe's life and his journey and his triumph over this fucked up situation. And also his own fucked up situation of being botched initially. The American Hair Loss Association is americanhairloss.org. And guys who are in Joe's chat, by the way, you can subscribe to Joe's YouTube channel, youtube.com/hairtransplantmentor. But I'm looking at his chat right now. There's 42 people watching currently at this moment. And there's only 13 likes, thumbs up. What the fuck is wrong with you guys?
Fix that, guys.
How difficult is it to just say, give it a thumbs up to thank Joe for putting this on his Facebook page, on his Facebook,
I don't know,
on his
I don't know if
YouTube channel?
Like if we have less than 20, I don't know. We should come back on Friday. I don't know.
Okay.
Let me refresh. 13. We got 13 likes.
Nothing's happening.
Nothing's happening. Apparently, you guys don't want us to come back on Friday, and I'm serious. It's like, if we don't get more likes, we might not be back.
You know
on
what
Friday.
these guys like? They like to learn about homemade fucking PRP treatments. That's what people on the internet like.
That's true.
That's what they fucking watch. They want to see some guy who had a hair transplant in a foreign land. That's it. They want to ask these people questions. It's fine. I totally get it. There is a part of me that just wants to be, I got 21. Good call. Good job, guys.
22. Okay. All right.
All right.
We'll be back.
But there is a part of me that's just like, I've given a shit for a long time. Why do I still care? Like to me, it's like Darwinism at this point. You know, it's like if these young guys, if people don't get it, that they're being sold a fucking bill of goods, that people aren't spending their time creating content, especially these young guys who are not in the field, creating content just to help you guys out. We stupidly are. You know?
Maybe we're the dumb ones here.
What?
Maybe we're the dumb ones here.
Yeah.
We're doing this. We're not trying to make a buck with this. We're not pimping wares and stuff.
I'm the idiot. Did someone just dislike your thing?
Ooh. That's okay.
Anyway.
Oh, they switched it. Oh, they switched it.
Yeah. Now there's 2.
Yeah.
All right, motherfuckers. Anyway.
Interesting.
Anyway, so that is the nature of this game. This is a very we live in a very just bizarre world now. And I've come to terms with that. I totally get it. But there is a part of me that just wants to just say, you know what? Fuck, let these guys learn the hard way. But I know what it does to people's lives. I know what it does to this guy who called from China. And the work that's being done today, the work that's being shown by a lot of guys who are on YouTube and elsewhere, it's not going to make you happy. That's the problem. You're better off not having surgery at all. So, listen, whatever. Take everything with a grain of salt. Learn from 2 old guys who've been around the block. And in a way, it's kind of tongue-in-cheek. I'm not going anywhere. Like I said, I said, maybe I'll give it 48 months, maybe 36 months. I don't know. But eventually, I'm just going to hightail it out of here.
And then you'll all be stuck with me.
You'll be stuck with Joe. And maybe you'll be happier. I don't know. Anyway, thebaldtruth.com for archives of this broadcast. If you want to interact with each other, baldtruthtalk.com. It's a message forum, guys. And my motto is stay off the fucking message forums. We appreciate the traffic, but, you know, don't spend too much time on there. You can read about what's happening. We're actually putting segments, unique segments and interviews on, there's a section, a hair transplant show section in the hair transplant section. My interviews with doctors, undercover tech stuff like that. Yeah, you can go there, view that information, interact with some other people. But if you spend more than an hour a day on any message forum, you got to figure out something else to do because it is not healthy for you. There is not a message forum owner in the world who would tell you this. Because the longer you're on their site, in their minds, the more relevance and the more value their site is to sell sponsorship on. That's the way of this world. But anyway, you can check out baldtruthtalk.com. And if you were considering surgical hair restoration, created the organization, founded it almost 20 years ago. It's the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons, IAHRS.org. It's a good place to start to do your research, period. That's what it's there for. Until next time, everybody, be strong, God bless, and thank you so much for listening. Take care.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the programme, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.
Bud Light presents Real American Heroes.
Real American heroes.
Today we salute you, Mr. Really Bad Toupee Wearer.
Mr.